Welcome to a new episode of I Was 8. I'm Larry Fedoruk. Be sure to catch this podcast again next week when the topic will be comedians. You know, the funny thing about comedy... All right, never mind. Let's move on with this week's story. I Was 8.
Season 4, Chapter 4, Rubber Rings.
I sense that even for fans of this podcast, I may have to explain what rubber rings were. You're probably saying, well, rings made of rubber? And you would be correct. Yes, indeedy do, as my dad would say. But hopefully I can explain not only their original usage, but how we kids repurpose them for our own playful pleasure. It was the toy never intended as a toy. In hindsight, when I was 8, I had plenty of toys and stuff, but only in hindsight. When you're actually 8, there's never enough toys. There's nothing to do. I'm bored. Play with your toys. It's all junk. I want a new this. I want a new that. What? I gotta wait for Christmas? I gotta save for it myself? You didn't have any toys when you were growing up? Yeah, okay, Mom and Dad. Gotta be honest, I'm only hearing excuses here. Perhaps you both should work a little harder. I'm presenting a problem. I need a new toy. I'm also presenting a solution. You buy me a new toy. You're just coming back with more problems. Highly inefficient way to run a family, as I see it. So yeah, I had toys and a bike and a ball glove and some board games, had a hockey set at one point. Spoiled, really. But as a kid, you just burn through your toys. Same thing today. Go to any yard sale where they're now selling the toys their kids were begging for only 6 months ago. Now on for under $1. One thing we did as kids that I don't think happens much anymore, especially with electronics being so predominant, is inventing stuff to play with. I'll just call them all toys. That didn't start out as toys, yet we played with them. Number 1 on the list, a good stick. I've talked before about the importance of a good stick. Not a hockey stick, not a pogo stick, even a drumstick, just a stick. Old tree branch, discarded wood, broom handle, any found stick. Decent thickness, but not too much for a kid's hands. Used it to play stickball, good as a pretend rifle, or sword, depending if you were playing cowboys or Robin Hood. Good for poking at anthills, drawing in the dirt, not to mention the more practical use as a weapon of self-defense. The stick. Close second on the list, the cardboard box. Any size cardboard box was like a gift. Whatever came into the house, you were like, "Can I have the box?" Smaller ones were a good garage for your toy cars. Larger ones were like a fort for you and your friends. Ooh, I'll never forget the day we got a new stove. That box, I lived in that thing for like 6 months. Really honed my interior decorating skills. I had that thing quite comfy. I left the flaps out and used some of my dad's big nails to nail the flaps into the ground. You could survive a hurricane in that thing. A big cardboard box. I kept my stick in there. Speaking of sticks, stones were also good. Almost all the boys in town had a rock collection. It's not like we were budding geologists or anything. The rock collection was based on kid stuff. Hey, look at this one. It looks like Old Man Rezic from the hardware store. Ha 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 ha. Hey, this is a good throwing stone. You save the flat ones for the lake because they skipped the best. Randy Ruby held the town stone skipping record. Condé last summer at Scotts Point. Stone skipped 22 times. My best was 9. But I was working on it, and I had a few stones up my sleeve. Sticks and stones may break some bones, but they're also good toys to... How does that go? Also, as a kid, playing with your dad's tools was always a riot. After a while, though, when he found his tape measure bent to hell and all the screwdrivers caked in mud, he started locking them up in a cabinet. How do you break a pair of pliers? I don't know, Dad, wasn't me. Standard answer, by the way, for a kid, right? Wasn't me. After a while, it was so automatic. You know, I heard on the news a big semi rolled over on the highway. Wasn't me. What? Nothing. Now, the pots, pans, and other kitchen utensils you couldn't lock up, practically speaking, but honestly, that kitchen crap is baby stuff. By the mature age of 8, you weren't as interested in playing with those as much. I've grown up. I play with sticks and stones now in my cardboard box. The kitchen, however, is where we discovered the rubber ring. Officially, the rubber fruit jar ring. 12 in a box. Most popular brand, Viceroy. This was back in the day when canning and preserving was what many families did. There was a season, a canning season. It was the fall, after the harvests were in and the gardens were picked clean. People made their own jams, jellies, tomato sauces, pickles, and more. And in order to preserve them for the long winter ahead, they were kept in glass jars with a glass lid and a big metal screw top to keep the glass lid in place. Now, yes, they've since invented better systems, but this is what we had. And to make it airtight, Viceroy sold these rubber rings. They fit around the glass lid and provided that airtight seal so that you could pop a jar of peaches in the dead of January. Yay, peaches! The jars and lids were used over again year to year, but the rubber rings most often had to be replaced. You know, you never saw a kid more excited than when a jar of something came out of the pantry. Yes, I'll have more pickles, please. Because you knew when the jar was empty, you would probably be allowed to have the rubber ring. Time usually destroyed the rubber ring's air tightness properties, but much of the elasticity remained. Are you getting a toy feel from this thing yet? No? Well, think slingshot or firing an elastic band at a pre-assigned target. You know, wastebasket, coffee mug, co-worker. Ow! Now imagine doing the same with a Viceroy fruit jar rubber ring, perhaps more than one tied together. It's like your elastic band is a pea shooter and my rubber rings are a shotgun. Now, if all of this sounds aggressive and violent, it wasn't. Well, okay, maybe a little. Because we didn't just fire these things at each other, we also used them for target practice. The other fun game was looping several of them together, hooking one end onto your thumb, then drawing it back with your other hand as if you had a bow and arrow, and seeing which kid's rubber rings would fly the farthest. Some of the bigger kids, greater arm span and more rubber rings, could get that thing to go almost the length of a football field. I think Randy Ruby held that record as well, 72.5 yards. The slightly used ones were best, more stretchy. If you stole some of your folks' brand new ones out of the drawer, you had to work them in, soften them up. If you were going to loop a bunch of them together, we all knew the technique. Newer ones on the ends. Used stretchier ones in the middle. One year, I asked for a box of new ones for my birthday. But my birthday was right around canning season, so I couldn't get any. Some of the older kids used to buy them for themselves at the hardware store. Hey, Mr. Rezick, just picking up a box of rubber rings for Mom. She's making preserves. Rezick would grill the kids. You sure those things aren't for you? No, sir. Applesauce. I mean, what could he do about it? He couldn't ID you for rubber rings. You have to be this old to buy rubber rings? Although I heard later that Mr. Resnick used to phone people at home. Hello, it's Mr. Resnick. Your son just bought rubber rings. Are they for you, or is he going to use them for shooting? What a rat fink, huh? When a rubber ring broke, you didn't throw it out, 'cause eventually, when you had enough broken ones, you could tie them all together for a nice big giant rubber ring, and you were back in business. Target practice, distance competitions, and yeah, we did shoot them at each other. The problem with that is that when you pulled one back and shot it and hit a guy in the ear, after the pain subsided, he could just pick it up off the ground and shoot it right back at you. Reusable ammo. Doesn't work out well with arrows or bullets. Some of the older kids did shoot at birds, but I never did. My dad said I could kill all the blue jays I wanted, but to never kill a mockingbird. Because, wait a minute, that part happened to somebody else. Rubber rings did have a few other uses that Viceroy likely didn't intend. We would put a nail on the wall of the garage and play ring toss. Most rubber rings on the nail wins. Best out of 3. Until the other guy won his second game. No, best out of 5. Damn it, best out of 7. 9. Yes, I can change the rules in the middle of the game. We didn't say it was a series. We said 3 out of 5 and then 5 out of... No, it doesn't matter. Also, up in my room, I put a nail in the door frame, level with the doorknob, and used the rubber ring as a makeshift door chain, so that Mom couldn't just barge into my room whenever she wanted. I tried to get her into the habit of knocking first, but she wouldn't do it, so I had to resort to the drastic rubber ring measure. By the way, this is not one of those stories where I'm trying to teach some lesson about how it was better then than it is now, because that's not always true. Some things were better then, and also many things have improved immensely since. What I do admire about those days when I was 8 was our ability to improvise. When we didn't have toys, or were bored with the ones we had, we picked up sticks and stones and cardboard boxes and rubber rings. Rubber rings, of course, is the item, but if you say it quickly, rubbering, it sounds like the verb, the act of playing with them. Where is Larry? He's rubbering at the playground. That's our Larry.
Thanks for listening to I Was 8, a weekly podcast voiced, written, and produced by Larry Fedoruk. This podcast is available on most major platforms, or check out the I Was 8 YouTube channel. Larry Fedoruk, that's Fedoruk, can be reached at larryfedoruk37@gmail.com.